Today, we're going to dive into one of the most critical questions in all of forensic science. Seriously, this is the kind of thing that can make or break an entire investigation. We're going to look at how science deciphers the body's own internal clock to figure out the time of death.
At any scene, the most powerful piece of evidence is often the one that can't say a word. The body itself holds the key. It's a silent witness, and its biological story starts the very moment life ends. And it's the investigator's job to figure out how to read that story.
So think about it. Before they ask who did it, or how, or why, there's a much more fundamental question they have to get a handle on first. It's like the anchor for the entire investigation. Any guesses what that is? Of course, it's all about when. Knowing the time of death. That establishes the timeline, right? It helps prove or completely bust alibis, and it can seriously narrow down the list of suspects. And in forensics, there's a specific name for this crucial window of time. It's called the post-mortem interval, or PMI for short. And this is not a random guess, not at all. It's a scientific estimation, and it's based on a series of really predictable changes that happen to the body after death. And let me tell you, getting that PMI right is absolutely vital. So, how do they actually do it? Well, the process kicks off by looking at the earliest, most immediate signs. In just the first few hours, the body goes through this dramatic, yet, pretty predictable transformation. Okay, so two of the most famous signs are livor mortis and rigor mortis. With livor mortis, or lividity, gravity just takes over once the heart stops. Blood pools in whatever part of the body is lowest, causing that dark, purplish stain. Rigor mortis, though, that's the famous stiffening. It happens because the body's energy source, ATP, runs out, which causes the muscle fibers to just lock up. And livor mortis follows a very specific schedule. It starts in about 30 minutes. You can see it around the 2-hour mark, and then it becomes fixed somewhere between 4 and 6 hours. Now, that fixed state is a huge clue. If the lividity is fixed on someone's back, but they are found lying face down, well, that's a dead giveaway the body was moved hours after death. Rigor mortis also has a really predictable timeline. It starts small, in the eyelids and jaw, within about 2 to 6 hours. Then it spreads, hitting peak stiffness around 12 hours, before it slowly starts to fade over the next day or two. So by checking which muscles are stiff, an expert can pin the time of death to a surprisingly specific window. So after those first changes, a much longer process gets started: decomposition. This is basically the body's journey of returning to nature. And guess what? It also follows a predictable, observable pattern. Forensic scientists break it down into 5 general stages. It kicks off with the fresh stage, then moves into bloat, then active decay, advanced decay, and finally what's called the dry or skeletonized stage. And each one has its own very clear signs. The visual transformation here is, well, it's dramatic. It all starts at that fresh stage where the body still looks pretty normal, and it ends with skeletonized remains. The difference is just stark, and every single step along the way tells a story about how much time has gone by. So let's break that down real quick. The fresh stage is when the body's own cells start to self-digest. Bloat is pretty much what it sounds like. It's caused by gases from all the bacteria inside. Active decay is when things get really intense, tissues start to liquefy, and most of the body mass is lost. In advanced decay, the process finally slows down, and by the skeletalized stage, you're left with only bones and other tough stuff. But here's the thing. The body's internal clock isn't the only one ticking at a crime scene. Nature actually provides its own team of tiny timekeepers, and they can be astonishingly precise. And this brings us to the fascinating world of forensic entomology. Insects, especially blowflies, are drawn to a body incredibly fast after death. We're talking sometimes within minutes. So by studying the age and the development of the insects they find, experts can figure out a minimum postmortem interval. The whole process is amazing, really. Blowflies lay their eggs in protected spots, and then maggots hatch within a day or two. Now, how fast those maggots grow is incredibly predictable. But, and this is a big but, it all depends on the temperature. What's really wild is that a big group of maggots can generate its own heat, creating this little microclimate that speeds up their growth and the body's decomposition. But what about when it's way too cold for insects? Well, a really cutting-edge part of forensics is looking at the tiniest forms of life. Researchers are now digging into what they call the microbial clock. the predictable way that different bacteria and microbes take over a body after death. And the results are just stunning. There was this recent study in a super cold environment with temps dropping to minus 39 degrees Celsius. Using only microbial data, they were able to predict the PMI. Get this, their model was accurate to within just 9.52 days over 6 months. That's in a situation where insect evidence would be totally useless. Now, as you've probably guessed, none of these clocks, not the bodies, not the insects, not the microbes, operate in a perfect bubble. There are tons of environmental factors that can speed things up or slow them way down, making the investigator's job incredibly tricky. A classic rule in forensics is Casper's dictum, or Casper's law. It's basically a simple ratio for how the environment affects decomposition. It says a body left in the open air decomposes about twice as fast as one in water, and an incredible 8 times faster than one that's been buried. And as you can see here, the number of variables is huge. Hot weather and humidity speed everything up. Cold weather slows it all down. Clothing can act like a barrier at first. Even things about the body itself matter, like more body fat or open wounds can totally accelerate the whole process. So when you put it all together, the physical science, the decay, the bugs, all the environmental chaos, it really leads to a big question. Is this process more of an exact science, or is it kind of an intuitive art? And the honest answer is, it's a powerful mix of both. The timelines for things like rigor mortis or insect growth, that's hard science. But taking that data and applying it to a unique, messy, real-world crime scene, that takes the skill and the trained eye of an experienced investigator. They have to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Because when it's all said and done, the body is the final witness. It can't lie. It doesn't speak in words, but it tells a very clear story, one that's written in the universal language of biology. Thanks for joining us.